Sometimes archaeologists are left astounded by their own discoveries about the past. They're left staring in disbelief at the incredible findings, wondering whether they're even real, or whether they've somehow been tricked. The sense of awe that these discoveries inspire is a wonderful feeling, and we hope to inspire that same feeling in you by the time this video is done. The Tomio Mayorama is already one of the most famous Kofun burial mounds in Japan, and has been for a very long time. There are several established facts about the tomb, including that it was created during the late 4th century. It's the largest of all the Kofun burial mounds in Japan, which explains why it's taken archaeologists such a long time to fully excavate it. When they finally did so in January 2023, they came across something strange. A person buried at the very center of the tomb with an enormous bronze mirror and a 7-foot-long iron sword placed across their chest. Even the coffin that the deceased is buried in is unusually large, measuring just over 16 feet from top to bottom. Large mirrors have often been found inside the tombs of the elite in China, but this is the first time that such a discovery has happened in Japan. The artifact is shield-shaped and covered in interweaving patterns. Experts say the patterns are identical to a Kofun period mirror known as the Daryukyo, and so they've named it the Daryumon shield-shaped bronze mirror. It's not the most imaginative title, but hey, at least it's accurate. Archaeology isn't always glamorous work. In January 2023, archaeologists in France found themselves digging through a set of ancient wells and latrines in Sens. They're glad they did so, though, because they found a Roman wood writing tablet with traces of ink lettering still visible on its surface. The find was the pick of the bunch among a haul which included wood, leather, ceramics, and, for want of a better phrase, let's say organic remains. All of the artifacts come from a window of time between the 1st and 3rd centuries. It's rare for wooden artifacts to survive in the ground for so long, but in this case, the writing tablet survived because the ground was so waterlogged, a fact that might have something to do with the latrines. Regrettably, the lettering on the artifact is so faint that it can't be read. This is a recent discovery, though, so it's possible that after preservation work, it might be possible to read the message with the aid of technology. Maybe it's a reminder that everyone should wash their hands after using the latrines before they go back to work. We mostly associate runestones with Scandinavia and the Vikings. Plenty of runestone artifacts have been discovered in Scandinavian nations over the years, but there's a special significance to the one that was first reported in January 2023. According to experts, it's the oldest runestone ever to be found in Norway. The experts haven't rushed to make that conclusion. The stone was first discovered in 2021, but hasn't been reported on until now because it was still being studied. This discovery was made in a burial ground not far from Tyrifjorden Lake, which is in Svingerudsteinen. Only one of the burials at the site contained a runestone, and this is it. It was found in a simple-looking burial comprising cremated bones inside a flat grave surrounded by charcoal. Scientists have performed an osteological study on the bones and determined that the deceased is an adult who passed away somewhere towards the beginning of the 3rd century. The runes carved into the stone they were buried with are, unsurprisingly, primitive, but spell the word Idibera. That was a popular woman's name of the era and seemingly confirms the identity of the deceased. The Freer Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C., USA, has in its possession 2 incredibly rare artifacts that are considered some of the best examples of ancient iron meteorite weapons in Asia. The axes, which have rarely been exhibited in all the time they've been owned by the gallery, are believed to have been discovered in the Henan province of China in 1934 and are thought to date back to the early Zhou dynasty, around 1000 BCE. Researchers have been able to confirm that the axes were joined by the casting-on method, which is a well-known technique used during the Bronze Age in China. The most important thing about them is that both weapons are of meteoric origin, which is extremely rare and adds to their uniqueness. The discovery of these axes has provided valuable insights into the technological advancements of ancient China, and also offers a glimpse into how these cultures saw and used meteorites in their daily lives. The fact that meteoric rock was used in this way suggests that these ancient people somehow understood that it was an unusual and important material, even though they couldn't possibly have understood where it came from. Here's another discovery from January 2023. There's a well-known archaeological site in China called Changsha. It's on the side of a mountain, and archaeologists have been there for several years. They may just have made their greatest discovery to date. It's a cluster of 21 vertical pit tombs, from which more than 200 artifacts have been recovered. Experts believe that the tombs are around 2,000 years old, and may have been dug for members of an ancient royal family. Specifically, these could be the remains of the royals of the Western Han dynasty. The idea that these people might be a family comes from the fact that they were buried so close together, both literally and in terms of the time of the burials. The idea they might be royal comes from the quality of the goods they were buried with. Taohua Ling Han Tomb, another royal burial site, isn't far from the site of these newly discovered pits, so it's possible that there's a connection. Most of the grave goods are of a type well known to Chinese historians, but mystery still surrounds a pair of iron relics decorated with talc and glaze. When the Nazis invaded Poland at the beginning of the Second World War, the country's Jewish population had to flee. In doing so, they often attempted to hide their valuables in the hope that they would one day be able to return for them. Tragically, that was often a vain hope. In January 2023, a damaged wooden chest was found buried in the foundations of a building during renovation work in Lodz. The chest was taken to archaeologists, who opened it and found a collection of more than 400 objects, some of which are Judaica. All of the objects were carefully wrapped in newspapers before they were placed in the box, a fact which means the time of the burial can be confirmed as October 1939. Included in the collection are menorahs, Hanukkahs, pieces of the Talmud, holy vessels, and more personal objects like perfume bottles, items of clothing, and silver plate tableware. It's likely that this is everything the family owned that they believed was worth keeping, but they couldn't take it with them when they fled. Those Jews who remained in Lodz, approximately 150,000 of them, were forced to move to a ghetto in the northeast of Lodz in February 1940. Archaeologists in Germering, Germany, made a fantastic discovery in January 2023, a Bronze Age well filled with ritual offerings, which is believed to be over 3,000 years old. The well is incredibly well preserved, with its wooden walls still partly damp from the groundwater. This has ensured that the organic materials discovered within it have been equally well preserved, including a total of 26 bronze garment pins, amber beads, 2 metal spirals, an animal tooth wrapped in metal to make a pendant, and over 70 ceramic vessels. The condition of the vessels indicates that they were carefully lowered into the water, rather than dropped or thrown. As such, it's thought that they were part of an offering to the gods, made during a time of drought when the water table had dropped significantly. The hardships faced by the settlers at the time may have spurred them to sacrifice their most valuable possessions to their gods, in the hope that their fortunes might improve. As part of the ongoing archaeological dig at the site, around 13,500 artifact finds have been made, mainly from the Bronze Age and early Middle Ages. It's expected that some of these finds will be made accessible to the public later this year in the Germering City Museum. In a rare event, a 2,000-year-old town named Vilarino da Furna has been recently revealed in Portugal's Minho region during a dry spell. The town was submerged in 1972 after the construction of a dam that was supposed to provide hydroelectricity to the region. The Portuguese electricity company paid off the residents to leave their homes before flooding the areas of the River Homem, and in 1971, the last resident left the town, leaving its structures to await the flood. According to oral accounts, The town was established by the Romans in the 1st century and was continuously occupied for the next 2 millennia. However, the flooding ended over 2,000 years of history in the village under the river, and it remained submerged until the dry spell exposed the remains of the town. The bare walls, windows, and doors of the town rose out of the depths as the dam water levels fell. A museum dedicated to the lost city can be found in nearby São João do Campo, and boats with transparent bottoms are also available to take tourists over the village so that the remains of the town can be seen. When it's sunny outside, you might consider wearing sunglasses to protect your eyes from the brightness of our native star. We associate sunglasses with hot weather, but it's sometimes just as important to wear them when it's cold. When sunlight reflects off snow and ice, it can lead to snow blindness. That's why snow goggles are a vital tool in the arsenal of every Arctic explorer, and they're an older invention than you might imagine. This pair of Inuit snow goggles is currently among the collection of the Science Museum in London, England. They're made of rawhide and pine, with tiny slits in the rawhide that allow the wearer to see where they're going. They even have a handy wooden case for the owner to keep them in. They'd still be useful for protecting your vision in the snowiest reaches of North America today, which is remarkable when you consider the fact that they were made in 1801. Most modern sunglasses are fashion items, but when these were made, their inventors were more concerned about health and safety. Archaeologists are used to finding animal-shaped pots and vases inside ancient Chinese tombs, but this swan-shaped pot came with a riddle that experts are yet to get to the bottom of. The previously undisturbed pot contains a 2,000-year-old liquid, and we currently have no idea what the fluid is. The discovery arrived almost by accident. It came when construction workers in Sanmenchia in the Henan province came across a previously unknown grave and called in the experts to take a closer look. Along with the swan pot, they also found a bronze helmet, an iron sword, and a jade ceremonial sword, so this was likely the final resting place of a soldier or warrior. The pot, though, is somewhat incongruous with the rest of the discoveries. It's the only bronze pot ever found in this part of China, and so that, coupled with the fact that it contains an unidentifiable liquid, has got archaeologists very excited. The fluid, of which there are around 3,000 milliliters, has been described as yellowish-brown and containing impurities. It could be anything from ancient wine to the fabled and long-sought-after Chinese elixir of life. In England, the National Highways Agency is currently upgrading the A428 road, which runs through Bedfordshire. In the process, they've come across a site full of waterlogged relics from the Iron Age. The discovery was first reported in January 2023. It's a notable find because many of the relics are wooden. It's unusual for wooden artifacts to survive for this long because wood buried in the ground is usually broken down by bacteria and microorganisms. In this case, the ground is so waterlogged that oxygen couldn't penetrate it, so bacteria were unable to thrive. Because of this, the artifacts found at the site are very rare. They include shallow water-gathering wells, a 2,000-year-old wooden ladder, and wattle panels made of branches and twigs woven together. Research at this site is ongoing, but experts currently believe that pollen, plants, insects, and seeds may also have been preserved, thus allowing us new insights into life in this part of England during the Iron Age. All of the wooden elements will be carefully removed and dried out in a lab so they can be studied further. Of all the mummified human bodies in the world, there's none quite so unique as the Grobble man. He's the most fascinating exhibit in Denmark's Musgard Museum, visited by thousands of people every year. You might not think he's too easy on the eye, but we think he's not doing badly for a man who's 2,300 years old. The body is so well preserved that all of its skin and hair are still present, as are the fingernails. We can thank the peat bog that he spent most of the past 2 millennia inside for that. He was discovered by workmen digging for peat in 1952. Unsurprisingly, they were terrified by the sight of the body and ran away in fear. In truth, though, Grobble Man had more to fear from people than people did from him. Based on the markings on his body, it seems likely that he was ritually sacrificed before being thrown into the bog. Such practices were common back then because the ancient residents of Denmark believed that bogs served as portals to the gods and the underworld. By sacrificing this man, they hoped they'd incur the favor of gods who would bless their efforts to obtain iron ore.
Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and enjoy watching new videos on my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you soon!